This is White Plains Week, the weekly roundup of White Plains, Westchester, and world news. With John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com. Jim Benneroff, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. And me, Peter Katz, formerly with NBC, ABC News, and stations from Boston to Los Angeles. White Plains Week, what's happening, who are the newsmakers, what's in store for the future. The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76, Verizon Fios Channel 45, and on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. White Plains, Westchester, and the world. John Bailey, White Plains Week, the City News Roundup Show. And good evening to all you senators and congressmen out there. The country is holding its breath. John Bailey with Peter Katz, the anchor for all seasons on WPW, and Jim Benneroff is on assignment tonight. Now, the headlines. White Plains got its first snows of the winter last week, 5 inches on Saturday, maybe 3 inches Thursday, and perhaps more this evening. So all you snowbirds risking spending the winter in that Florida state, enjoy it. County Executive-elect George Latimer addressed the Business Council of Westchester and said the county had to take a different direction. Peter Katz will have a video report. We had 4 shockers this week. 4 Democrats said they were vying for the Westchester County Democratic Committee to nominate them for George Latimer's Senate District 37 seat in the New York Assembly. Mayor Tom Roach of White Plains delivered an upbeat report on the state of the city to the Council of Neighborhood Associations, and we'll have video of his key remarks. The county legislature passed the budget for 2018 Monday, 12-5, raising taxes for the first time in 7 years, with 3 Republicans voting for it. On Monday afternoon, outgoing Republican County Executive Robert Astorino said he would veto it. The legislature has to deliver the same 12 yes votes to override Mr. Astorino's veto if he vetoes. The county legislature declined to approve a police settlement reached by the Astorino administration. Do they feel it's too much, or do they feel it's too little? We await the check for Playland due the county from Standard Amusements by December 31st if they're going ahead with the takeover. The holiday party of the year this year, and every year, took place at the Playhouse on the Rockefeller Estate, New York State Park, and Thompson and Bender used their party for clients, media, and friends to celebrate the gift of 400 acres from the recently deceased David Rockefeller, bringing the total to 2,000 acres. The Hunchback of Notre Dame musical, based on the Walt Disney movie of the classic, opens next Friday at the White Plains Performing Arts Center and runs through January 14th. And now, Peter, let's go to the Rollo Newsreel March of Time. And that's how it looked last Saturday morning. And I really panicked. Didn't everybody?
It's winter, John. What do you expect?
Exactly. We're too used to this global warming. But it was dissipated by the next day.
Well, it is more global warming. And global warming, even though it's cold and snowy, it is part of global warming's effect, because global warming pumps more energy into the atmosphere. More energy means you have more dynamic weather. More dynamic weather means you have more frequent and more intense events, such as snowstorms or rainstorms or hurricanes.
Right, all sorts of stuff.
So even though it's colder, it's blamable on global warming.
Right, and George...
Try to tell that to Trump. See if he can understand that.
Well, he controls his environment, so I guess he's not subject to that. Now, George Latimer made a public appearance for the first time this week, and that was at the Business Council. You were there.
George
Tell us all
Latimer,
about it.
of course, is the New York State Senator. He ran against Robert Astorino for county executive, and he was elected. And he did speak to the Business Council of Westchester. They held a breakfast on Tuesday in Tarrytown. He said the future of the county airport and playland both will get fresh looks after he takes office. He said his administration will be reaching out to the business community, and he also said he will work with both parties in the legislature. He said he won't be putting his name on all of the county's signs, as past county executives have done. You know, you've seen it. You go to a county park or a county building, and it says, "Welcome to Saxon Woods Park, Robert Astorino, county executive," you know, or before that, whoever the county executive.
Well, that's to make sure that people know who the county executive is.
Well, Latimer says that in addition to saving money, the county facilities belong to the people, not to the county executive. He also said his administration would have to deal with pressures on the county budget.
We have human needs, and they exist. And if we ignore those human needs, it's not just wrong morally, it is economically stupid. We have people in this county who are unemployed. Some of them have low skills. Some of them have skills and they can't marry to what the opportunities for jobs are. When we look at what the challenge for economic development is, it is absolutely making sure that every vacant piece of space on I-287 in downtown White Plains and New Rochelle and Yonkers and Mount Vernon, and every corridor that's already occupied on I-684, Mamaroneck Avenue between the Hutch and the New England Thruway, over here on 9, that all of those spaces are filled with productive corporations. So we have serious problems. We have budgetary issues to deal with now, and they're not going to be easy. We're going to have to make some decisions, and then the team that we put together are going to have to go down and talk to the various rating agencies and try to convince them that we have a plan that will stabilize our governmental economy over time, and that it isn't just we're trying to plug holes as we see fit. And that is where ideology has its limits and pragmatism has to take over. We cannot afford to have our bond rating continue to drop, even though it begins at a basis of AAA. But the AAA bond rating, and Mike Shalero will tell you, it comes because Westchester County has a unique situation. We are able to get 100% of the tax-warranted money from the towns and cities on day one. So Jim Cavanaugh and Mike Spano in Yonkers, they may have an in-rem property that they have to go after money on later. They have to give Westchester County 100% of the money up front. And that guaranteed revenue is the single biggest reason why we're AAA County. And when we get downgraded by Moody's, when we're under watch by Standard & Poor's, that's not a good thing. But we have to deal with real realities here. We have a workforce that has outstanding contracts, including the single biggest 3/4 of our work population. We've got to resolve that. And for people who have an ideological tilt, well, you know, our union people are making too much money, there's too many benefits. All of that might be true, but we are not the government that can resolve that. And having been in Albany, it's not getting resolved anytime soon because of realities. So let us be grown-ups. Let us negotiate as intelligently as we can and put these things behind us and show people that as tough as a decision is, we're going to make it and we're going to work through it. Not everybody is going to be perfectly happy with everything we do.
Now, it could be that we are going to see a rather strong, dogmatic approach by the Latimer administration.
We'll see.
We will have to see.
Yes.
You know, sometimes people come into office with the best intentions and then end up in the political meat grinder.
Right. Well, the major thing is settling with unions.
You have union contracts, you have the status of county assets, such as the airport and such as playland. You have the matter of affordable housing, which just, it's not going to go away as an issue.
Because housing isn't affordable.
And you have the issue of how do you attract and keep business in this county.
Without raising taxes substantially.
Now keep in mind that as things stand now, there's this tax bill, which we'll be talking about in Washington, which could be devastating for New York State, and if it hurts New York
Well,
State,
it
it's going
will
to
be.
hurt Westchester County.
It will be. It looks like it's going to pass.
So, you know, so what do you do about that? What do you do if you feel that you have to raise taxes because they've been kept artificially low for the previous 8 years for a matter of fiscal responsibility? You have to. How do you then burden people with increased county taxes when their federal taxes are going through the roof, and as a result of that, their state taxes are also going up?
Well, the county taxes are always very low profile on your tax bill, and what's really going to kill us are the school taxes, because they are going to go up substantially.
The thing is that Astorino is going out as a hero to those who believe in smaller government and lower taxes. Latimer now has to come in and look to see, has there been damage done? And if there has been damage done, what do we do to clean up and minimize it?
But we haven't heard a lot of complaints from damaged organizations over the last 8 years. We just haven't. We haven't had tremendous demonstrations. Oh, we're starving here. We haven't had that.
You know, one of the things that went over best at this meeting, at this breakfast meeting, was when he said he's not going to put his name on all the signs. That was taken as a sign of someone who is genuinely concerned with the people and the government and not with his own ego.
Well, that's as it should be. We will see if that is the way it plays. Now, we had 4 shockers this week, Peter, related to Senator Latimer's now vacant District 37
not
seat.
quite vacant yet.
No,
it'll
be vacant in 3 weeks.
Right.
Yes, right. But anyway, and there they are. There's Kat Bresler, and she is said to be from White Plains, and she was the first out. She announced November the 9th. Shelley Mayer, the Assembly District 90 Assembly person from Yonkers, and Chris Burdick from Bedford, who is the town supervisor up there, and, surprise, Mike Spano, the mayor of Yonkers, which basically you got a handicap as the man if he can convince the county legislature. It's just going to be interesting because he came out with a press release with a video in it, and the video was basically a campaign spot.
Well, he obviously, would consider moving to the Senate a boost, a rise in the political career.
Well, he's leaving. Well, he has to. He has 2 years to go as mayor of Yonkers, but he's going to take a pay cut, I think. Going up to the Senate. Well, maybe a pay cut.
Yeah, he also will find himself just one among many. I mean, in Yonkers, you're the big cheese if you're mayor. You run things, sometimes with an iron fist.
But he washes his hands of the Yonkers mess, which is constantly seeming to be in some sort of
Some people
mess.
will say there is no mess in Yonkers, John. So.
Well, that's what he says. That's what he says. He thinks he's saved Yonkers, according to the Spot, and people will believe those touchy-feely things. But
right here in White Plains,
Yes.
though, we seem to have a mayor who is perfectly content.
Yeah, we are in the best
city.
of all possible worlds. The Council of Neighborhood Associations had their meeting with the mayor Tuesday evening. 41 persons attended, and here's some excerpts of what the mayor said about state of the city.
This has been a great time period for our city. The last time the census reported it, we were the fastest growing city in the state of New York, and our growth is downtown, where you want it. What we're seeing is office buildings being converted into residential as per our comprehensive plan. We're seeing a lot of residential coming in downtown, and it's what you need. It's what you need to keep your downtown vibrant and working. I mean, right now, we're entering the holiday shopping season, and I can look around this room, and this is not going to be, and I'm including myself, we are the group that is going to be less dependent on shopping on our phones or on our computers, and this group probably is doing a large amount of their shopping that way. So the world has shifted. The 18-year-olds never knew the park, where you get in the car and drive and wait to get a parking spot and walk in, and they've been buying on their phones. So it's a shift. And the way that you deal with it as a city is to get people living downtown. And this city was ahead of most, because when the city center project went up, before I was even on the council, when that was approved, that brought people living downtown. I can tell you, I was an attorney with my office at 199 Main Street in the Bar Building, and it got to the point where I couldn't buy a sandwich. You couldn't, when Parkside Deli closed, there was nothing on that block, nothing. So things have certainly changed, but it's going to be a very shifting landscape, because people are going to be looking for experiential retail, and they're going to be services. That's what people are going to get. You can't get a sandwich on the internet yet. Amazon's probably working on that. But so we are well positioned for that. We have a number of projects happening now. Our film and television production is way up, and it's now managed in a way so that it impacts as little as possible on the residents. We've got a number of shows shooting here now. Last week we had 3 shooting in the city at the same time. They pay us permit fees. They pay us for police. They pay us for any kind of DPW work that has to happen. They pay us for parking, and they also spend a lot of money in our local businesses and by either leasing spaces to do the shoot, or for meals afterward and things like that. So that's going very well. In our downtown, we've been doing a lot of work, and that work has resulted. You're seeing a big investment from our downtown merchants. The Westchester put a ton of money into their building and rehabbed it. Then the city center, the new owners, they put a ton of money into it. We now have new owners at the Galleria that are going to make a major reinvestment and transform the building. So it's going to be entirely different from what it is now. And the future of malls, to the extent that they survive, and this is one that absolutely will survive because the downtown malls are going to be in better shape, is going to be still retail to an extent, but also shifting into more entertainment, restaurant, and things like that. They're going to open up the building. They're going to have outdoor dining. They're going to have, right now, if I have that speech I give about walking up from the train station to Mamaroneck Avenue and how you pass the Flash Cube and the Great Wall of Galleria begins, and then past Mystery Park, and then comes the Death Star, and the Great Wall of Galleria continues. The Great Wall of Galleria is going to open up, and then and it's something that I made light of, but was an actual real problem because it's a safe, clean walk, but it is not a pleasant walk, and if you make it pleasant, more people will walk. We received a grant, major grant from the state, which is going to allow us to do a number of pedestrian enhancements in the downtown, including the city's first protected bike lane, the county's first protected bike lane. So that comes from a state grant. We've seen a lot of new jobs coming into the city. You've probably read about it. Dan is moving their headquarters here. Jägermeister's here. I toured their new offices over by the train station. Sumitomo Bank is taking 3 floors in the Gateway building. New York Life is bringing 500 people in to the building at where Post Road hits Broadway. So this is all important. It's all in our downtown. These are people that are going to go out to lunch, that are going to go out after work, that are going to help support our retail businesses, because it is going to be a tough landscape. We have a lot of, as I said, a lot of new projects that are coming in various stages of the process. And what we're seeing, the seminars I went to and the conventions I went to, what they tell you is, you want to build a place, you want to make your city a place where people want to live, and that's when the corporations come. The old days of, Honda opens up a factory and everybody moves to your community is not what happens. They want to see that you've already established a base for the type of employees they want to hire. And that's why we're seeing the people coming in that we're seeing coming in. I had an attorney come up to me at an event and say, Mayor, I'm mad at you for you're doing too good of a job. I'm looking for a floor. He needs a floor in one of the buildings downtown, and there's only 2 in the whole downtown that he could go for. So many of you don't live in the downtown, and sometimes people say, well, you talk about the downtown all the time. Well, because the neighborhoods are things you want to try and maintain the way they are, provide the high level of services we do. When you have a diversity like ours, in terms of every way, so in terms of what we have, for the small size we are geographically, 3-story buildings and this vibrant, active downtown, and then we have neighborhoods of every type you can imagine, all the way to almost rural in parts of the city. That is all supported by the revenue we can generate downtown. because the downtown is going to do one of two things for you. It's either going to be a generator of revenue and a generator of positive impact on the people who come to see us, or it's going to do the opposite. And when you lose your downtown, the money just goes away. In terms of DPW, making a lot of progress. The last few years, we've doubled the amount of road miles that we pave every year. You're probably seeing that out there because it's making a big difference. But it's something that it's a combination of several factors. We're using a new type of technology where you can resurface the asphalt in place. Some of you may have seen this, but it's like a train that comes through, and they superheat the asphalt that's existing. They rake it up. It goes into a drum. It's mixed with the oil. It's a different term than that. This is my layperson's term. It's mixed up. It's put back down, and it's rolled in place, so you can do the street quickly, and you don't have to take away the old asphalt. You don't have to buy new asphalt, and you get a beautiful street out of it. In terms of the city itself, we remain AA1 stable. We are now, the county was dropped down to our level, and I guess on one of them at least, they're negative outlook now, but we're still AA1 stable. We've managed to, every year since they imposed the tax cap, come in under the tax cap. We have done that without borrowing for tax appeals or borrowing for pension increases, which is what many other communities have had to do. And we're working hard to keep that going. It's a combination of being careful with every penny we spend, and also looking for new revenue streams. In general, our city is doing very well.
Yes, and the Mayor Roach, who I failed to introduce, also answered this question from the audience about development projects. Here's his answer.
The train station itself, we were given state money to do a study of the whole area, and that helped us with our pedestrian improvements and our application there. But it also allowed us to work on what's going to happen in the downtown. What was sent out was a request for expressions of interest to develop the community. This is what we would like to see as a city based on what our community has said. And we got nine responses, which is tremendous. In another local community, similar situation, they got 2. So we got 9. And now we move on to the requests for proposals. But that went very well. And the other good news is, and I can't formally announce anything, but there is the MTA had been talking about doing some minor cosmetic repairs at train stations throughout some of the train stations in the system, and we were going to be one of those stations, but it was not. It was going to be minor and cosmetic, and to the extent that when I asked, well, will you do something about the bathrooms, the answer was no, that wouldn't be included in this. But now what they are saying is that they're going to be making a major overhaul of our train station, and we're already working with them to try and make that go as smoothly as possible. So hopefully by year's end or early next year, we're going to have a formal announcement of that. So that's going to be really great news. As far as the other projects, the ones you mentioned, the Esplanade, I know that they're working on financing on the Lennar project, which you and I call Alexander's. Other people might remember Porter's Books, which is more recent. They're looking at making a change to that project, so they're going to be back in. It's not going to be, I don't think, a tremendous change, but given the retail, national retail market, that's what I know, that's what they're telling us. They're all approved, we've done what we can do, so just wait until they get started. The grid project is, yeah, so those car dealerships that, down there, that's not forever, it's that, and they have an approved plan, and they're close to getting, they say, their anchor tenant, and then they start. But they can't start without it. They're not financing on spec anymore. That's just not going to happen, so you have to have at least the prime tenant before they're going to start producing the money.
So money seems to be a problem.
No one can ever accuse Tom Roach of being a pessimist about the future of White Plains.
Mr. Guy Smiley himself there, right? But that was very upbeat. The only questions that weren't asked in that was what are you going to do about taxes the next year? Because you have to negotiate with all the unions again.
So they elected new officers at the Council of
Yes.
Neighborhood Associations.
That's right. The co-presidents are Bill Brady and Andrew Custodio. The co-VPs, Ron Palmer and Chris Price. Treasurer Tom Osbeck. Recording Secretary Ruth Marie Hicks. Corresponding Secretary Lou Bruno. Officer at Large Todd Gordon.
And I'll tell you from
Congratulations
the
to that.
video, one thing you can say about the Council of Neighborhood Associations, they put out pretty decent food.
Yes, you can always get a sandwich.
I mean, when Roach was speaking, there was a steady stream of customers there at the food table.
Not rapidly listening to the patter from the mayor, but I mean, it is good that he does that, and we were happy to be able to bring that to you.
Anyway, John, I want to thank you very much for your Hanukkah gift to me, which is my not having to write a Trump feature this week.
It writes itself.
It does. I mean, we just want to mention a couple of things. Trump is going to the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia today to speak to the FBI people. But keep in mind, he's been attacking the FBI all along
that's what
because
it's
of the Russia investigation. And the Washington Post came out with an incredible story, and the New York Times also, saying, in essence, that the people, the intelligence community people doing the daily presidential briefing are unable to get Trump to pay attention to this stuff.
Wow, that
and
is incredible.
He frequently drifts. On one occasion, walked out of the room during the middle of a briefing, and apparently they have to be very careful not to mention Russia because he gets very upset if they mention all of the things Russia is doing. The Republicans, meanwhile, continue their campaign to discredit Robert Mueller, the special counsel, because if you don't have the facts, then you discredit the messenger, or in this case, the
Definitely, or
investigator.
you're entitled to your own facts.
We know that this tax bill may come up for a vote Monday or Tuesday, this compromise between the Senate and the House on their versions of the tax bill. We really don't know the content, but
neither does the Senate.
From everything we hear, New York State, California, the 12 blue states are going to get murdered by this, especially here in New York State, where we would no longer be able to deduct our state and local taxes, especially our
highest
property
in
taxes.
the nation.
Yeah.
Highest in the nation. So think about that. One last slide. This is all about the party that Thompson and Bender held on the Kiko
They're a
estate
public
at the
relations
Playhouse,
and
right.
marketing firm, right?
And at that, Jeff Thompson, shown the upper right, congratulated and the David Rockefeller's estate for awarding 400 more acres to the Kiko New York State Park. 2,000 acres now, and we also went on a tour of the Playhouse built by John D. Rockefeller for his children. It included a pool, lower left, an indoor tennis court, lower right. It was another world, ladies and gentlemen. But right, that's all for White Plains Week World tonight. John Bailey, Peter Katz saying good night for White Plains Week.
This has been White Plains Week. News and commentary about White Plains, Westchester, and the world. The views and opinions expressed on this program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week, produced by White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, and presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76 and Verizon Fios Channel 45. You may view White Plains Week anytime on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. For White Plains Week, this is Peter Katz speaking.